This information is for educational purposes only and is not intended for medical advice.
Welcome to Enhancing the Human. I'm Dr. Jenna Gatzis, a renowned expert in the field of human enhancement. I've spent decades of my life exploring all aspects of human health, which has allowed me to take people from extreme injury and disability to peak athletic performance. I use cutting-edge advancements, breakthrough technologies, and scientific insights to push the boundaries of human capabilities. The human body is able to do so much more than you think. Let's start enhancing the human. Hello and welcome to Enhancing the Human. I'm your host, Dr. Jenna Gatzis, and today we interview Peter Twist. He's a veteran in the industry and he's worked with the National Hockey League for over 11 years. He's worked with IMG and Under Armour as an educational partner. He's also worked with the Chinese Olympic Committee and he's brought their athletes to gold. It's a pleasure to introduce Peter Twist. He's been through so much in his lifetime and I feel like his stories can really impact other people's lives. So let's get to it. So, Peter Twist, thank you for joining us. And I just want you to tell a little bit about yourself. I've introduced you and introduced just your education and your record as far as what you've done impacting our industry as a whole, and just your understanding of things a lot sooner than most people. So we thank you for your contribution to our industry. But I want to hear a little bit about you, what got you into what you like to do, and how you had this understanding and just, the pillars in your life that have helped you.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, you've got me oriented now. and I love
we're easy around here
with you on anything. You have to be careful. I might start asking you questions so I can just sit and listen to you.
That's
I think
fine.
that's the best deal for me.
Let's do
and
it.
Your listeners. But my path, I started quite simply doing an undergrad in kinesiology. And there was different career options, teaching high school, the most obvious one, a few folks going into medicine and other options. And those are all great and really being of service and making an impact. But one, I didn't feel like defining my career in a box right away. Number two, I didn't feel like following someone else's curriculum and methods and things like that. I had a curious brain that saw things a little bit differently. And I was really focused mostly on sports at the time and not in the fitness industry whatsoever. And I landed from Ontario into Vancouver on Canada's west coast. Keep going to California, keep going north, and you'll eventually get Vancouver. So similar vibe, but lots of mountains that go with our ocean and beaches. Love the lifestyle. Loved the attitude, and I studied sports science, did my master's with a goal of being a head coach of ice hockey at university. And along the way was just through all of the integrated sciences that you delve into as well. I started to understand, our body and our performance, we're a human system and everything's connected and multiple sciences contribute to everything we do. So it started to get me more interested in the mind and body and how the brain and body are connected. And that set me on a path of individual athlete development. And so went on that path, ended up as a performance coach, strength and conditioning coach in the NHL for 11 years. Great experience. You're in the war room, you're going to battle to win, and every game, every shift counts. From there, I built high performance camps for athletes of all sports all around the world. And at the time, I launched the fitness industry, the sport industry's first 3 functional training certifications. And so I think there was a handful of people delving in that area, but I was the first pioneer, I'm called, that introduced, this is a contrarian way. And functional training, most people know of that today. It looks many different ways now. But at the time, people were training in health clubs using isolation for appearance only. There was bodybuilding, people training. I respect that as a sport and a practice, very great discipline and mental toughness. But, we really want to look like a statue. And we're not training at all to move. And then there was sports, and even back then in the National Strength and Condition Association days, where the organizations that educated how to train athletes, it was very limited. It was football oriented, linear track sprinting. And so really we're training folks to sprint in a straight line and do vertical expressions of power, really, really narrow silo for athletes. And when I talk to coaches and break down the sport characteristics of one-on-one tactics and game highlights and so on, none of the training is serving how athletes move, the physical qualities and skillfulness they require. So I reverse engineered from the sport characteristics and the sciences to physical guidelines and principles and the design of the exercise. We had a great time when we introduced functional training, because I'd be lecturing in audiences, 500, 1,000 coaches, and half the room would be crossing their arms, shaking their head no, like the most obvious nonverbal communication, with a scowl on their face, and just thought it was wacky. And the other
Just so
half,
people know, just so people know, there's a lot of resistance in our industry when there's something new, because a lot of it could be fads, but people like, in the human body in general, they like, the human likes to stay comfortable. So when you start to introduce new things, it gets frightened and it wants to stay away from those new things. So we have a lot of resistance sometimes when we introduce new things. So go ahead. You said the other half
it's hard to
is
relate to, because now we probably all look at Instagram and social media, and there is what we probably think are questionable things on there, and folks
yes,
doing circus tricks for likes and just trying to click followers. And it's
yes,
entertainment. So it's a whole
yes.
different time. But back then, everything was pretty scientific and rigorous, and um, we were all just focused on serving our athlete and client, not putting on a show to create followers. So it was a whole different, and everyone discussed things respectfully at conferences to share ideas and so on. But it was very limited, very, very limited scope of training or sphere of training. So this was just, suffice to say, it was so contrarian and differentiated at the time. Half the room was standing up. I'm just lecturing, giving, points and describing this functional training paradigm, and it integrated strength, balance, movement, core into every inch of every rep, every second of every drill. We trained similar to Olympic lifting, powerlifting, but there was dozens of other exercises that were done in 360 degrees, matching all the functional patterns of sport in 3D and so on. Half the coaches, again, were very upset. They were pissed off. They were angry. They didn't like this. The other half of the room was having epiphanies. They got it. They got it. They were standing up out of their seats like I had just saved the rainforest or something, and applauding and cheering like it was a concert. It was unreal. So it was a really exciting time. And from the enthusiasm around that, and because it was new, because there was no social media, I traveled all around the world to spread that message, as well as articles and so on, Jenna. But because there was no social media, no one could quickly steal it as they would today. So I had
Right.
time to develop that, and people had time to participate and honor it. And we ended up setting up 12 sport training centers in 4 countries, and 200 master teachers around the world teaching the twist methodology, with 330 distributors of that, and went on that path. And because I had the elite sport with our facilities and my own touch, we ended up training and helping over 2,000 pro and Olympic athletes, over 20,000 high school and college. So once you're doing those numbers, you get to know what works, what doesn't work. And these certain things from a mind and physical and skills seem to be working for athletes consistently. And you get confirmation of that. It's a good validity metric on there. But because there was the athlete part and the facilities, and importantly, the grassroots education, I'm giving away all my IP as fast as I can. I'm setting up trainers, coaches, doctors, therapists. Here's what you can do with your patients, clients, athletes, and trying to set them up for success. So that helped, I think, ripple into the industry, change that training paradigm. But it also led to opportunities like partnering with the China Olympic program, because not only could I serve their top athletes and their national programs and modernize their training plans, but also provide education so that we could develop domestic Chinese coaches and trainers and therapists to do things at the grassroots level with kids and serve the base. And they also had interest in active adults, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. Those folks need to be healthy. They need to be happy as well for a stable society and so on. So there's a real mix between your science and philosophy and methods to having facilities to the education, and as well hands-on with the elite athletes. And that was our unique mix and the things that we could bring as deliverables. And it just led to many wonderful opportunities around the world. And I will
Love
say,
that.
of course, I'm sincere, I'm genuine, I'm on a mission, passionate to help set others up for success, to call them future leaders so that they can go lead others. But whatever happens at the end of that for myself, I always had from the start to the finish, if I'm going to go do this and give all of myself, may do well financially, but what if I come home with $0 in my pocket? Would I feel enriched? Would I feel like I had a very meaningful personal growth experience in our short life? Did I get the privilege to do something unique and learned and experienced or observed? Does that help me see from a wider lens and different perspective? Did I enjoy the process and experience some joy along there? If those things were in there, then I was happy to do it. And I think hopefully some of the people would agree that in today's era of divisiveness and conflict and so on, just going somewhere else and shaking hands and making friends and helping each other do well, that's I love that. Love it.
And it's also part of healing too. We're social beings, and having that connectedness and togetherness is important. And we start to isolate ourselves so much, we actually impact our immune system, funny enough. So it's important to make sure that you address, like you said, we're we're multidimensional, and making sure you address every aspect of the human being. So you're not just addressing, the performance or the aesthetic look of someone.
Right
So
on. Well
his
said.
message,
Yeah.
your message has always been that. And that's why, we've been friends for so long. Anytime I would listen to you speak with Perform Better, it's all about just leading with love and having leadership and doing things for the right reasons. And, like I said about keeping yourself in check, it's hard sometimes to keep yourself in check, but you've always kept yourself in check and always wanted to make a difference in the world and a difference in people's lives. So yeah, it's a beautiful thing to watch. And you said that, all the people you served with your functional training, you talked about, you know, I learned so many different things. What type of things were you seeing introducing this? Because people weren't doing this. It was you're sitting on a machine, you're doing a certain squat, you might be using a barbell, but it's the same reps of the same movement, and you're not using multiplanar movements. So tell me a little bit about what you saw and then what you saw once you adapted certain things,
Oh goodness, it sounds like it's from another planet when I
right?
reflect back on it and maybe categorize some of that. But it was a lot of strength training that was muscle isolation, single joint, sitting on machines, or lifting with dumbbells, but sitting on a bench to do it, and single joint. Of course, there was power lifting and Olympic lifting, but that's a very small inventory of lifts, all with a bar, straight vertical expression of power against gravity. And that's where it ended. For metabolic work and conditioning work and speed work, it was running in a straight line. That there you go. For your abdominals, for your core and glutes, it was floor-based sit-ups. It was literally floor-based sit-ups, right? And and so to and conditioning was overall, it was very Of course, in some athletics, there was anaerobic conditioning, but there was mostly aerobic conditioning and a focus on VO2 max, even in repeated sprint anaerobic power sports, interestingly. At the time, football had a good foothold in college and pro with strength and conditioning coaches, and the college programs were built out. Most of the other sports weren't. Like the pro sports the major leagues didn't even have strength and conditioning coaches. You go to a head coaches conference and when you get up and speak on conditioning, strength and conditioning and the physicality for skill execution and game demands and sport nutrition, that's when the coaches would leave and have a nap because they're hungover from the night before. At that time, there weren't personal trainers. Most sports didn't have strength and conditioning coaches, and the real trainers of athletes were head coaches of individual sports. That's where it was happening. It was limited to those types of that inventory of training methodology that I mentioned. Really just multi-joint vertical lifts and so on in machines. But it was your track coach, your rowing coach. Head coaches were the first strength and conditioning coaches of individual sports. They were the first personal trainers trying to match the demands. And then it slowly started to build out to other sports. And so that was within athletics and fitness. Oh my God. It was just isolation. And whatever was in the bodybuilding book from 50 years before, that's what everybody's doing, right? Which still persists today. So it was wild. It was wild. It was just wild and it was fun. And there's one thing to get up off the floor doing abdominals. Okay, now we're going to do it in a standing position with rotation against resistance. Wow, that was too much for a lot of strength and conditioning coaches at the time too. But in fitness, really, really wild. But okay, now we're going to take that rotary element and integrate it into a push chest exercise. Now we're going to take that rotary element, integrating it into a push exercise, and integrate the leg motion that you use when you're braking on the court or changing direction or moving laterally, and so on. So there was a movement skill with rotation with a prime mover push. That was just not acceptable to most coaches when it was first introduced. But we gave it science. We gave it structure. We validated it. We researched it and got great results. We were showing over 1,000% more muscle activation than comparable exercises with using the same muscle
You guys were
group.
doing EMG studies and you were actually getting the data. So that's what's so unique is, people are stubborn towards this idea, but yet they haven't done any of the research. So it's just, again, the human being scared of something new. So I'm glad that you guys did the research and you showed that, because just so people have an understanding of the way the body works, joints are multiplanar, meaning most joints can move in different directions. So different planes of motion. And if we only train the one direction, not only yes, you will get good in that one direction, but only so good, because your body's not working as a system, as you mentioned before. It's working as individualized parts. And so then you're just as good as your weakest part, and you're going to break eventually. You're just waiting for something to break. So if you train the body and the joints in a way that is multiplanar, that means that the body's ready and prepared for different forces that come at it any different way, aka how you move in a sport. Right. You're getting tackled, you're having to change direction, speed, agility. It's all training the brain to connect to the body to move the joints the way they're supposed to be moved. So if you're not training that, you're lacking in your performance, force output, everything, reaction time, but also your recovery and then your longevity, because you're not working as a system and eventually something's going to give.
Yeah, longevity, sustainability is huge, and right on with the brain mapping out the software, for that blueprint of how we move. It's really a body that works. It's about communication. We have millions and millions of sensors, receptors in our tissue, our fascia, our joints. They're all bringing data points about what the heck is happening to our brain every single microsecond. And then and we're instantly getting a computation to send accurate directions back. Our muscles can do 8 things. There's 8 roles that our muscles can play. They can stabilize, get stiff, react, contract, lengthen, etc. And they need to know what to do at the right time in concert with all the other muscles. This is such an amazing machine, our human body and brain. It's the only machine not fully understood in the world by anyone, right? And people are so hooked, and we can benefit from metrics and KPIs and data and feedback, but they don't even understand their own body yet and how to move their body. So when we talk about training methodologies, for sure, if someone's listening, they want to be a champion bodybuilder. I wouldn't follow much from this program right now. Maybe in a future chapter, you want to go do what champion bodybuilders do. I don't think that's going to make you healthy. I don't think it's going to make you move well. You're probably going to be in pain, but you want to compete on stage as a champion bodybuilder. There's a specific way to train to get those kind of anomaly level results in your musculature. And it's amazing. Go for it. If you get into it, if you're into it, do it. Immerse in it. Love it. Get into it. But and of course, there's athletes that are going to take everything through to the most intense level and push as hard as they can. And then the rest of us in here, I'd ask you to think about your body as your human vehicle. And so however you want to reference it, whether it's your soul, your spirit, what makes your person, that's not your body. Your body's your costume. It's your human vehicle. And this is what moves us. So to be able to be healthy for the long term and to be able to move well, anything you do to eat and train to be healthy and move better, you're going to end up with the enhanced appearance that you're desiring in your mind. And so it's thinking about how can we train to move well? Anything I'm doing at home or in the gym for training, how is that transferring out into the life I want to live? Will that allow me to move pain-free in all different ways? Can I play with my kids joyfully, pain-free? Can I go skiing now again and still do the double blacks? Those type of things. So, and sustainably, not just for 2 months from now during the summer when we might have our shirt off more, sustainably all year. How can we feel great emotionally, mentally, physically, and move well all year and for the next 10, 20, 30 years?
And it becomes easy. It's not something you have to try. Once you fix your pillars and your foundation is solid, everything else becomes easier and you can maintain it for longer. The best.
Yeah, it's kind of flipping. Of course, I like to say about 99% of aging research is fundamentally flawed. And I say that because in North America, we'll take a bunch of folks that are at 30 and measure them and then, go on a 10 or 20-year journey and then measure them. And here's what happens. And that's aging. Well, you're taking the average person in North America. And I don't want to sound disrespectful. I say this like I don't want to say this respectfully, but I'll say it straight up. The average in North America is not in a good spot.
No.
Right.
And the statistics show that.
Right. And someone of average motivation doing average nutrition with average to no exercise. And then you measure them and say, this is aging. And we start to believe those are the expectations. So we start to do less. But I know you can use all your multiple talents in your clinic and your team. You can take anyone of any age in any state, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, and you can fundamentally
I have a 95-year-old
in all ways, right?
Yep. I have a 95-year-old right now.
Yeah.
She's going to be 96 and
remains wildly adaptive to smart stimulus. We can always
hopeful stimuli. Yeah. So if you sit there and you're negative and I can't do it. So this lady is such a little sassy lady. And she tells me the stories that the doctors have convinced her. She's like, I have neuropathy. I'm like, again, that's a story you told yourself because she forgets. And then she I keep reiterating it to her and she realizes I remember and I care about her. So she really trusts me and she feels the difference. So she's like, I said, if you believe that, that's what will happen. You think you have neuropathy, you think you can't feel your feet, then your energy to your feet is not there. Your brain is like, hey, we don't have anything. I'm not even going to try. I said, but if you tell yourself, I can move my feet aren't numb.
Yep.
I said, I've made people go from paralyzed completely for 10 years to not being paralyzed bilaterally.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so
yeah.
sky's the limit
Love it,
with what
love
you
it.
can do with your mind. So it's so important to recognize that, because you're right. The medical field, they think everyone's aging. Yeah, if you allow yourself to age without doing anything, yes, over time, our brain shuts off our balance fibers. Over time, the human body will deteriorate in certain muscle fibers, but you don't have to. If you stimulate those muscle fibers, you stimulate your brain, you stimulate learning pathways, you don't have to deteriorate. And like I said, at 95 years old, she went from barely being able to stand up on her own to we were playing catch the other day. She's all feisty, like coming at me like this. She's like, you better watch out.
I
And
love it.
I
You
love
two
that.
must have
It's the
such an
best.
amazing connection and friendship
The
through this
best.
mutual
And the
gratefulness for each
best.
other.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she's like, you're the only, and she's, well off. So she's seen all these physicians and she's like, you're the only one that can help me. And so when people are intuitive, they could feel that you can help them
Yeah,
and you
yeah,
give them a
yeah.
little bit of hope and a little bit of love. And it's the human brain, body, everything can change significantly.
100%. You've mentioned hope. You've mentioned expectations. You mentioned awe. And we say motion creates positive emotion. Nature creates positive emotion. So we like to combine those. And we know when we take folks that, don't have much hope, we take them into nature, get them moving. One, we're off the flats. We don't need more repetitive mechanics on flat concrete sidewalks. Getting into nature where it's undulated, roots, rocks, and you don't plant your foot the same once. Even if you're depressed and anxious and low hope, it's stimulating your brain, and your brain and spirit are paying attention. But there's so much research on moving and moving in nature that stimulates a sense of awe, and having a sense of awe that stimulates a sense of hope. We're not all a roaring fire all the time of motivation and inspiration, but even at our worst, when we're knocked down and we're beat up and we've got trauma and we're trying to get back up and we've had loss and so on. I like to say, like, that roaring fire that we want to feel so vibrant, doing well, you just need one little ember. And you can get that sparked, and it just sparks a little bit, right? And then you start to aggregate that every day. So for folks listening, getting with people, with people like Jenna, and who also brings lots of love and care and uplift. That's a big part of stoking that ember, so you can get your fire rekindled again. It's the kindling to get rekindled. Getting in motion, getting in nature with places that you appreciate, to feel grateful. You can look around and listen. The symbolism in nature. If I go in the forest and there's 200-foot towering trees and there's a mountain, well, the mountain's what we try and ascend. There's valleys in between the trees. A 200-foot tree. Symbolism is so important. Symbolism is so important. A 200-foot tree for me stands tall for 1,000 years in face of all the storms. It's deeply rooted. It's anchored into the ground. So if I want to be that, I just need to decide I'm going to bestow that meaning on these trees so that every time I see them, that's what they mean to me. It doesn't need to mean that for anyone else, but I've literally bestowed that meaning on them to symbolize that for me. Now, when I'm in that environment, I feel grounded. I feel elevated, like flipping the switch to turn on a light. And so we can start to develop these training tips and methods and strategies that are kind of a shortcut to being at our A+ level for what we want. When do we need to be at our A+ level? Well, when things are at their most difficult. That's when we need to be our best, when our best is needed. When is our hardships at their worst? We got to find a way to be our best, to build back up to that. And then, of course, your aspirational goals, going for your dreams, your biggest opportunities, your highest opportunities, your gold medal type podium type accomplishments. Well, you need to be at your best then too. And so how do we get there? What level can we get to and sustain? How do we sustain it? And when we lose that, how quickly can we start reverse the direction? And when we're degrading and down, how long do we need to stay in there to learn the lesson, to have time to honor it before we can start to reverse the opposite way?
And people don't realize that there is a way to reverse it because they get told this story or they tell themselves a certain story and that's what they know and they just roll with that for the rest of their lives. So you can change anything and if you
Right.
just little step after little step, you just try to move forward. Like you said, you learn the lesson, you take the good from the situation and you progress onto that. And you don't that doesn't have to be your story. You can change it no matter what age, what time, how bad things seem, you can always change it.
Yeah, you're so well said. Your past does not define where you are and who can be. I love the philosophy. I adopt the philosophy always be in the process of becoming. And that excites me. You know, a lot of people are resistant to change and they're trying to stick
Love
and keep
change.
everything the same. And certainly, if you have a loving family, you want that to have a nice long chapter and everyone to do well. But for ourselves, um, I don't want to be the same 2 years from now. I'd like to be an enhanced version of myself in all ways if I can. And it's just always be in the process of becoming and release to that. There's a part of that. Some people would resist that and be threatened by it or disinterested. Others may be excited about that. But there's sometimes we become the next best version of ourselves after overcoming tragedy and difficulty and trauma and sickness and illness and so on. And there's something people need to be aware of about their personal identity. You know, so if I'm the person, I'm out partying everybody, I'm gonna out drink everybody, and I'm gonna I'm gonna be the life of the party. I'm gonna eat the crappiest food, and I'm gonna Netflix, right till the last person with me is awake. And then something happens to my health. I get back, I get on track. I meet you perhaps, gets me on track. Then, I'm feeling better, thinking better, a little bit healthier. I'm moving, sort of baby stepping in that direction, liking it. That's helping me meet more people who are doing that. Then I become physically more capable. Now I'm out doing active things. Now I'm creating a new social network. This is all awesome. And now I'm kind of, I'm now the walking meditation zen, and that's that person. I'm holistic health. That's a pathway for a person. Very often they'll sabotage that because although they're becoming a higher level of themselves, it's difficult and also kind of a grieving and a little bit awkward to not be that identity that they've always associated with, that people have recognized in them in ways that they've liked and so on.
Because
So
the
be
brain is
aware of that when
comfortable.
we're accomplishing, making strides towards the next level of ourselves. Us self-sabotaging that to go back to a previous identity is so common. Or
Very common.
a spouse or partner, of course, who doesn't, is sensing distance. They're not coming along for that up-leveling ride. Will tend to pull us back as well. Have you seen that in your world? Yeah.
100%. That's always. And I tell people now, just because I've had so much resistance to it, I'm like, listen, because everything I do is retraining motor control and retraining your brain. And, like you were just saying about hardware, software, and our brain is comfortable moving the way we normally move. And that's all it knows. Your perception of where you are in space literally trains because your mind is programmed to think you're a certain place and you're actually, you may not be. So what I do is train people out of their motor control patterns because that usually contributes to their injury or
Right,
their
right.
postural
Yeah, yeah.
mechanics or because I relate it to performance too. I train people from injury all the way to enhancing their performance. What I do to tell people about their motor control is because a lot of people will like ball up their fists when I'm telling them to do an exercise, or if I touch a place that's really sensitive and they're like, I don't think that's supposed to be touched. And I'm like, no, your body's created a fortress around this joint because you don't have control of it. You have to break it down. Otherwise people will then get more resistance. But so I tell them it's going to be painful in the beginning. You'll see, take a couple breaths and then the tissue will be completely different in 10 seconds. And so those little barriers of trust, they start to realize, oh, wow, maybe she knows what she's saying. Let me try something else. So doing it in a safe way. But I tell everyone, because they'll get really angry with these exercises that I have them do, because I isolate the joints and make them more isolated movements to be able to reprogram. Because if it's too much too soon, your brain cannot. It goes into its compensatory patterns. So I tell them, you're not going to like this. You're going to start sweating. We're not even moving anything. And you're going to look at your hand and be like, why can't I do this? I have like pro athletes that are like, should I retire? Like, I can't, we're not even using weights. I'm like, I know, but I'm like, no, I'm going to make you feel dumb and stupid for the first couple of weeks. Everything I have you do, you're going to think I'm insane. And then once you get past that and your brain recognizes how to fire down different pathways, you're changing your entire system and working together as that machine we were talking about. And that's where it's, sky's the limit with your performance and your longevity. And so once they get past that, like annoying, I don't understand phase, which is just a couple weeks. Yeah, it's your body's a new body, new foundation.
Yeah, absolutely. My experience with pro athletes or aspiring pro, they're still great athletes, is, half of them will start to salivate going, you mean I can't do this? And they'll get into it. Like you've identified a way for them to improve. And of course, they've gotten to where they are in their career in part because they really enjoy skill acquisition. They love the process and the feeling of improving and the practice. So they get into it. The other half are intimidated. Their egos are hurt a bit and they want to shy away from it and go back to what they can already do.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like to go where I can't do things.
That's
I love exploring everything that I can't do. And I'm like, why can't I do this? Let's try to do this, because it's as annoying that I cannot do this. Because it's important. That's all part of growth. Like you said, we should be lifelong learners, never ending our journey in learning, because we don't know. I wasn't the same person today as I was yesterday. I'm not the same person today as I was yesterday. So you have to constantly grow through different perspectives and different just trials of trying new things and seeing how you come out on the other side, and learning yourself and learning to thrive, to challenge your ego and not just succumb to your ego. It's the best because you have humility and you start to dive into things you're not comfortable with, and you can really grow by exploring those areas.
Oh yeah, no, fully. Big passion for that and resonate, like-minded. And, we got three of the types of intelligence. Of course, our intellectual intelligence. And I always say, the more we know, the more we know there is to know. And, so learning can be nonstop. And then your emotional intelligence, your EQ. Which for some reason inspires a lot of anger by folks that their kids might learn that in school. Like when someone gets angry about someone learning EQ, your anger suggests you need to study EQ. It's so ironic. The Fortune 500 companies recruit and promote more on EQ than they do IQ. We want someone that can come in and affect people positively. And we used the word earlier, emotional sovereignty. I wake up with 3 power words. Already, I decide today I'm going to be positive, present, passionate. Or I'm going to be, kind, peaceful, and enthusiastic. And those are my 3 power words. Of course, there's other emotions that are in parallel with that. But no matter what happens in my day, unless there's a life-changing tragedy, but just all of my successes, challenges, living my day, the people on my path, how someone is or isn't at Starbucks when I go in, whatever. None of it affects that. None of it throws me off that. Like I am my energy, my attitude, my emotions, my mental state the whole day. I've decided that. I own that. I got my hands on the steering wheel. I own the process. Nobody can throw me off that. And that becomes very natural. That's a powerful state. So that's the EQ. Then your KI, your kinesthetic intelligence, or your athletic quotient. And, that's our physicality, our physical fitness, but our ability to move that you specialize in setting people up with, successfully restoring in them. And with your kinesthetic intelligence, I really like to focus on movement skills, the quality of our movement. I focus on transitional balance, our body, our center of mass, in all the movements we do. We're always shifting our hips, our center of mass. We want all our joints stacked up well, so we're in a perfect position of balance. Huge for lifting. I focus on load management. If I could only teach someone who's going to exercise one concept, it would be load management. And you'll see in sports medicine and physical therapy, and say in the NBA, they might look at load management as the volume of the number of minutes played in games in practice, the volume of impact from foot contacts, and they'll rest a star player before they get injured. Beautiful. I'm not talking about load management from that, though. I'm talking about managing a load into our body. So lifting a weight, how do we manage that into our joints in our body, or a horizontal, a cable or a piece of tubing? How do we manage that into our body? And how do we manage our body mass on its own into the ground with gravity? And additionally, when we're double weight lifting, if I'm holding a weight, I've got my body mass plus the weight that I'm carrying, and I'm lowering that. I'm managing that total mass into the ground. When we can simply do that in ways that is kinder on our joints and harder on our muscles, we're going to stimulate more tissue adaptations with a less load than normally required. We'll have a lower orthopedic cost. We'll have longevity in the game. And we're building the quality of movement ability to be outside the gym, how we move around. By we're building movement skill inside our lift. So that, and then linking the strengths from head to toe. Link strength, head to toe. Toes through fingertips. People ask me what muscle group I'm working. I'm working the toe to fingertip muscle group. And it's got to be linked in and sequencing. So that load management, transitional balance, movement skills, you put those 4 or 5 pillars together, you've got a body that works. You've got a body that's skilled, confident, pain-free, and you can go out and do what you're passionate about. When we can be active in the things that we're passionate about with the people we love, then we have mental health, we have good energy, and we come and spread that to our family, our kids, and other people. And so I believe we create mental fitness, we create good energy by people being pain-free and be able to do what they love, what they're passionate about with the people they love. And that's a great orientation to send people on.
Definitely, definitely. And just so people know, movement is, and I'm the same way because people are like, what are you working? I'm like, everything. What are you training for? I'm like, life. Because every day is, your body is working with these forces and working with these movements. And if you can't control those movements, you're either contributing to an inflammatory process or
Yes.
you're contributing to a healthy body. And so you see that day in and day out. It's when you move, you push your joints, you push your feet off the ground or whatever limb is touching the floor, and it sends the force through your body and through your joints and then out the other side of the other limb. So if you're not taking things into consideration as a whole, then you're putting things in your neck, or you're putting it in your back, and your body adapts easily and it will hurt these joints instead of efficiently transfer the load through your body. So it's so important to change your center of mass, to control every point of movement and then load the joints. Because most people in our world, they load the joints without having that foundation. And that's where you can get hurt and where you start to tighten up from your workouts. And then you get into this process of, I feel like crap, I don't want to work out.
Right.
And then the depression, and it's a cycle we see over and over again.
That does degrade through the mental health cycle. Really well said. Everything's connected, right?
Yes.
Everything's connected, positive or negative, improvement or degradation. And connecting those dots and knowing where to start and what leads to good positive growth effects in that process of always becoming. I love it. I really, really like your wording of, when you're moving poorly and loading poorly, how it stimulates that process of inflammation and that negative cycle. That was really good language to identify for folks.
I tell everyone you're clogging your pipes because our lymph and our lymph and our blood is trying to circulate.
Yes.
And say we have a toxin inside of us, our body is trying to get it out and deliver it to our lymph nodes so it can suck it out of our system. But if we have all these tightnesses because of lack of coordination and control, it's more energy the heart has to endure to pump the blood where it needs to pump it. So you have higher blood pressure. Like
Yeah, yeah,
everything
yeah.
is either a resistance to health or, aiding health. So I'm glad you bring these things up because it is a system. And if one thing is broken, you're not helping yourself any.
Right on.
Going back to your intuition about just health in general, before
Yeah.
anything happened with you medically, I feel like you understood so much. And I just want to stress the point that people not using functional exercise, that was such a big deal because this was the future back then. And not a lot of people wanted to explore it. And you bringing it to the forefront just shows how intuitive you are as a human being. But I feel like when you came out this way in Malibu
Yeah.
and we hung out for a while,
That's right.
I felt like that was before I knew a lot about, because I remember I was making coffee with Coffee Mate and I'm putting it in the microwave and you're like, that's not good. And I was like, oh, pick your battles. So now I'm like,
Pick your battles.
now I don't even have a microwave, and my outlook is a lot different. I just got out of grad school and I just coached NASCAR,
Yeah.
and so there was a lot going on, but I really got to explore more of that and how we are electrical beings, and that plays a huge role in it. So if we zap our food, it's zapping us internally and
Yes.
changes the outcome of our health as well.
Yeah. That was a good juncture in time. It's been great to observe the direction you've gone in growing your own philosophies and knowledge and methods, and how you're compiling that to offer it to others. And good stuff. That I love seeing that in you. And you brought up the functional training and my health wrinkle I need to iron out. Two quick things on it for folks. Functional training, which didn't exist at the time, and I'm planning on launching a business, writing education certification courses that the industry doesn't have for methods that nobody knows about or probably believes in, and then some tools to go with them, some training tools that nobody really wants because they're kind of wacky and doesn't fit the other training style. So I got at the time the five top business people I know, and then five people kind of in the fitness sport industries. And I did a pitch, not to like get them involved or get investment. I just want their opinion, their feedback. Thumbs up, thumbs down. What do you think of my idea? And all 10 said thumbs down. And they said, don't do it. There's no market for this. No one's doing it. Like what kind of business are you going to have? You won't have any customers. And if I was there and five said yes and five said no, I'd be uncertain. When all 10 said thumbs down, I was like, I got it. I'm on it. Like, I see it so clear. I've got a head start. People aren't into it. They're not going to get it right away, right? I'll just take that ball and run with it. My vision is clear. Yep. And their universal thumbs down gave me confirmation that like they're stuck in the old on there. So that was
just like EQ.
It just wasn't self-belief that, hey, Peter Twist can figure it out. It's like this is a clear vision. And I believe in these methodologies, and enough people will resonate. Nobody's for everybody, but enough folks will align with this. And then, if I can, just take a minute for your listeners on my cancer journey, just to reinforce it into them, and to know to let them know as succinctly as I can. When I felt I had cancer intuitively, at that chapter in my life, I was my best on all fronts. I was my fittest, my strongest, my leanest. All of my businesses were taking off like a rocket ship. our nonstop difficulty was handling success, handling growth, which is challenging, but exciting. And where I lived, I was living in a glass tree house looking up a fjord. I had 2 young daughters, a great relationship, like everything in life. If I was asked about it, 10 out of 10. Just a unique chapter. But with all that in place, I really felt like I I think I have cancer, and my health looked and seemed good. My energy was super high. I'd work all night, go work out the next day, feel great, and I go to doctors a couple times a year, and to let them know my concern that I think I feel like I have cancer. Can I just get checked out? But of course, I go in there and they're like, "Hey, how are you?" And I'm like, "Hey, I feel great. What an awesome day!" And oh, by the way, I think I have cancer. And so
They're like,
I
hit the
didn't
road.
sound or look like a patient.
Yes.
I didn't sound or look like their typical patient. And even doctors that are wise and experienced and caring have biases. They see through lens and they make snapshot decisions. That guy can't have cancer. He's an athlete. He's fit. He's lean. He's strong. He's positive. So number one, if you think you have an issue, then don't go in and sound too chipper. Sound kind of sick. You'll get more attention. Number two, I got denied for 5 years, and a couple times I got blood tests, but nobody really wanted to. I was knocking on the door, and no one just wanted to open the door and say, "Let's come in and take a look." There was always a reason not to take a look. And I got denied. So I put that accountability on myself because I should have put my shoulder down and just barged through and found a way. But I liked when I heard not to worry about it. And so I'd go off for a few months and come back. But 5 years later, I was diagnosed with stage 4 head and neck cancer. And the first oncologist talked to me about palliative care. He said, "It's too late. Can't do anything for him." And so I was
For people that don't know, palliative care just means they're setting you up to pass away comfortably,
That's right.
basically. Like it's the last leg.
That's right. That's right. And I was respectful to him, and then I stayed to the end of the appointment. But as soon as he said that, I knew he wasn't going to be on my team, and he was going to get cut after that first day. And I need a doctor who's smarter and more clever, and I need a doctor who can believe in me. Your coach has to believe in you, your therapist, your clinician, your doctor. You need people in your life that believe in you, and hopefully even more than you believe in yourself sometimes. And that's what makes a great coach. That's what makes a great doctor and a teacher and a therapist. They believe in what you can accomplish even more than you right now might. And circle up with that. So I wanted to share that with folks, and I won't consume more time on this podcast on there. Uh, um, Other than I got the shit beat out of me, and burned up from the inside out, brain damaged, and lost all my muscle that I had so honorably retained to that age, and really started from scratch. At an age that most people have given up being fit and strong and healthy. And when my body was still willing to be adaptable to nutrition and training stimulus, and it's a long process, but you can come back. Who's ever listening, you can come back from wherever you are, whatever weight of life that's imposing itself on you, whatever mistakes you've made, whatever illnesses we have. You can come back. You can improve. Things can get better. Just really, really get into that and step through it and be patient. Keep going. Keep going.
And don't believe the people that say you can't.
Yeah. I'm so passionate about survive to thrive, because let's say we're in a situation, it could be like we're going to rehab from an ACL injury and that's knocked me out of my sport. Well, that's devastating. That's serious. And it could also be like someone has a stroke or cancer or something, and they're trying to survive. But on that end of the spectrum, most of us are going to do more things than we may normally be willing to heal, to repair, to survive, to rebuild a bit. And so when you're not, when you're this is your normal, and you get knocked down to here, and you're willing now to do some therapy, to do some rehab, to adopt better habits, to not use the microwave, to eat some healthy foods, and to get back to where you were, all you need to do is keep going. And without question, you can get to your best ever. I think the biggest opportunity for people in becoming their best ever is getting knocked to their worst and clawing and baby stepping their way back to where they were, and just keep going. Don't get off
No
of
matter
that.
how no matter
Right?
how hard it gets. And just so people know, palliative care, that's basically them giving up on you. And so
Yes.
you went a different route. You went through chemotherapy and they burned you so much. And I remember all of this. And I remember how much it took out of you. But you didn't give up there. You kept going, implementing different things that the doctors weren't telling you to look into nutrition, to look into the negative impacts of the
Yeah.
microwave. You did that on your own. And so just because I want people to understand, there's not just a one answer that someone's going to give you. It's many different things that help the system, and it's many different opinions where you're going to get answers that are helping to better your health, not to just give you an absolute, hey, no, can't happen. Because like I said, that gentleman that was paralyzed for 10 years, he's not paralyzed ananymore
Wow.
after 10
Love it.
years of being paralyzed. So, and I was like, I don't know what we're going to do. I'm like, we can't mess it up anymore. So and he's like, wow, that's so true. And so him right there, he's like, you're the first person to treat me like a human being. But it's like, that right there, you never know. No one knows.
Yeah.
And so for someone to give you an absolute, you cannot do this and you will not survive, that's taking away from who you could possibly be. So don't ever let someone just smash you down into a corner, into a box, and say you fit here, because you could fit wherever you want to fit. And it's all based on your ability to want to try.
Yeah. All based on your ability to want to try. And then just know there's no one magic fix. I did dozens and dozens of things that most of them probably helped in small ways. Maybe some of them didn't help my cancer repair or overcoming symptoms, but they were definitely healthy for me, and good for my body, good for my mind, good for my soul, and so on. So,
which also helps get you out of that inflammatory state. So that secondarily, they are helping you.
Yeah. Be open to where something is sending you. What direction it's sending to you. I'm so much more. Like, I went over to Hong Kong. I spent time at a Buddhist monastery and did some mindset practices. And I wouldn't have done that 10 years before my cancer. I probably just would have been thrown back about 30 beers. And and thought that going to the monastery, it wasn't a cool thing for me to do. Wasn't my thing. So, meaning that our challenges that we're surmounting are opening us up to new doors and new people and new experiences that are so amazing that we can be so enriching and enjoyable and be grateful for. But we don't know what those are yet, so we need to move forward. If we move forward, there's good things that are coming on our path for us.
That will help heal the cells and put us in a non-inflammatory state. So you've gotten all your muscle back. Obviously, you've gotten your muscle back. You are cancer-free.
Cancer-free, muscles back, feeling great, and striving for a new personal best. Yeah.
Love it. And how long have you been cancer-free now?
Well, about 5 years, as far as, like, they have sort of metrics with how many years you go, and they announce that. But it's been about 10 years now, and I have 2.5 muscles here, 2 rotator cuff, half my trap, I have paralysis. Hardly anyone knows that, but it fits our conversation. I feel comfortable speaking with you. And that's because with my radiation from cancer, it fried the nerves, so I can't get the signal from the brain to speak to the muscle. And so to be able to lift weights and move my body in certain ways, I've needed to my body has needed to relink how it works. So I have muscles producing function. They're not, anatomically, they're not supposed to be able to. And the fascia, everything's just trying to link in to allow me to do things. And I've got pretty good movement. I can't lift my arm all the way overhead, but what I can do, I'm, millions of reps for that. And so we earn the process, but we also trust the body. Super intelligent and clever. It can find a way to work around things and keep us going and allow us to move well. So it's a journey. There's still side effects, but I'm on the right side of the ground. I'll take all that with a blessing and be thankful for today. Not just because of that experience, right?
Right.
I'm always
Every
grateful for
experience.
each day, whatever it brings, and we get to be in the game of life. We get to be in life school, and
Yep.
I've got a
I say
simple
that all the
mission.
time.
Some people relate, some people don't, but my I think my goal for myself each day, because we're all going to walk on our path. When people say we want to change the world, right? But most of us, we would love to change the world. We'd love to see the world change. But unfortunately, although we might start out with those aspirations, like you're affecting so many people so positively, but you're not going to affect the whole world. You're not going to change the whole world. But each of us right now, right after this podcast, can change our own small world. I can show up as any type of person I decide to be. I can share any level of energy, any attitude, any words. I can take any actions. So my own small world and the path I'm on in my small, tiny world, I'm going to pass by certain people today. I'm going to interact with people I know and with strangers. I can show up in any way and affect the quality or the degradation of each moment and each person, right? And so I can change my world. And so my mission is to be more present in every moment, like I am here with you, and to show up to people and that moment so that when I leave it, that moment, the person in it is elevated. I've affected them positively. I leave a moment better than when I showed up to it. I leave a person better than when I showed up to them. That's my mission. And if you do that with everyone on your path quite consistently, I guarantee you, your world is going to radically change because people will reciprocate based on that. So I am showing up authentic and genuine, but I'm deciding to show up a peaceful, positive, enthusiastic, caring, present version of myself and be genuine. Most people reciprocate, and then that's my day. And my world has changed, right?
It really does. It's a domino effect. It really just dominoes out. And then even if it's not directly impacting you, maybe that person is nicer to someone else.
100%.
And then all of that energy is part of our world of connected energy. So we're all connected. And, in a world that's very, defensive and isolated toward one another, I feel like that just remembering that we're all connected, and it's important to be open to that, because that's how we thrive, through human connection and, just being social with one another and being caring towards other people and ourselves.
Caring, connected, be open, and be
Yes.
kind. Be
Yes.
kind. Trust that everyone you see could use a little more kindness. And I think you would probably
Exactly.
agree, Doctor, giving
Yes.
kindness is healing for ourselves. Right?
100%. And there's
Yeah.
so much research on that too.
Yeah.
And we speak on this all the time, just about being outside and the trees and all of the research that shows the benefit to the cells, from just interacting with nature. So it's so important to recognize these things and give them the credit they deserve, because there's so many things given credit in our health world that don't do anything for the humans.
Right,
And
right.
so it's important to recognize the small things that can make a big change, because those little things add up. And I appreciate you just bringing all that up and sharing your story. It's such an incredible story. And every time I see you, you can see your presence. You can see how much you care about other people. And that's why I wanted to have you on. You've touched our industry and our world. And I feel like your experience can help other people. So I thank you so much for being here.
Well, you're very welcome, and thank you for inviting me to join. Always an honor and pleasure to connect. And I think everything we've talked about, including you saying connecting, caring, and me saying being open and be kind, that's part of high performance.
Yes.
I'd like the sport and fitness and strength and conditioning and athletic and other business industries, CEO leadership paradigms. What is high performance? Well, not treating people like shit. That's not high performance, right? Not being disinterested, distracted. So coming in, caring, connected, open, kind, and those other attributes, those other qualities, that is part of high performance, positive leadership, and leaving your mark on people and your family and your day and ourselves through that.
Yes.
So thank you
Because
so
you
much
don't
for
feel
the time
good.
together. This is awesome.
Yes.
And
Oh, I appreciate it. And just because I want people to realize when you're mean to someone, you don't feel good. It doesn't feel good. You don't, feel more energy after being mean to someone. You feel horrible. So you're again creating this inflammatory process. So
that's
how
right.
you treat others and how you treat yourself is your health, is your mark on your body. So, like you said, our meat suit,
Yeah.
our little vehicle, we have to take care of it, emotionally, intelligence, or emotionally, physically, mentally, it doesn't matter. It's all so important. So, but there's a couple questions I ask every person. I kind of modified the one, but I wanted to ask if you could pick one modality to help you just strive towards this level of success in your health and in your body, what would it be that made the greatest change? Whether it's, breathing, it could be a physical modality, it could be something that you do routinely, just one thing that you can
It's
explain
this
how
is
is
there's a geographical alliance with this. I realize in answering it, my answer would be being physically in motion in the mountains. And I understand that's not on everybody's block. Um, so I would say being physical, being in motion, outdoors in nature, feet in the
that's
ground, eyes in the
combining.
sunlight,
I love it.
amongst whether it's the ocean, the beach, the trees, the mountains, uh, getting off of flat surfaces, combining motion and nature. That would be my foundation, and lots of other things. And I think if people can find what's for them, you get your mind and your body uplifted one step, and you get in motion in a positive way, then that's going to lend itself to making other positive decisions that help you as
Definitely.
well, and adopting other modalities.
And just the clarity to do so, because when you are stressed out, if you are in an inflammatory state, I tell people you get this brain fog where you can't make decisions, you don't have clarity. So, just creating that clarity through being healthy and understanding the human body and how it works is important. So
Yeah,
thank
yeah.
you for that.
And
You
if I
combined a
can,
lot in those.
not just not just from a promotion standpoint, but from I've invested my whole life and career, and my personally I've relied on it when I'm pursuing my podium best, as well as overcoming health wrinkles I need to iron out. Is the twist functional training methodology, integrating strength, balance, movement, core, because I love feeling, if I feel strong, then I'm going to go do some great things. But in lifting that way, I'm getting full body strength, my anaerobic energy system, tremendous balance and brain, and movement skills. And with movement skills and loaded motion, I'm getting mobility. So that's would be my one modality is linked strength functional training, the twist methods, because I check so many boxes in that one. Of course, I have my breath, my presentness, my mindset, the symbolism of the exercise that I incorporate, and it's become more. I would liken it like someone would think of a Tai Chi or a Qigong, or maybe even a yoga or a martial arts practice. I'm in that spirit and mindset when I'm in it. So for me, I'm really getting max benefits.
Love that. And where can people find your training methods, and where can people get in contact with you? go ahead and completely plug yourself, your Instagram, anything you
Yeah, I
want
think that the
to
social
give
media
us.
platform I'm on a few, LinkedIn and Facebook, but Instagram I'd be on most often. It's Coach Peter Twist. Coach Peter Twist. Great community there, engaging. You can DM me there. Feel free. twistuniversity.com would get you into my primary website, and you can link over to all the courses and programs. And I'd like to mention I've put together, we have courses to study, but we also have programs that are like a learn by doing. And if you think of your fitness program, your physical program, your training program, have a similar periodized scheduled 12-week training program for your mind and your emotions. And it's champion mindset and mental well-being, and really building things like resiliency and adaptability and gratefulness and positive leadership and courage and coping skills and
Love
perspective
it.
and so on. All of those things, and little bit of study, just tiny bit of study that's really story driven and inspirational. And then each week there's a practice. I give methods and tips and techniques, and folks go out and practice them. And it's game changing. It's
I
game
love that. I'll
changing for
definitely have to
people.
check that out. And as far as the audience, who are you catering towards with those courses? I know it's probably everyone, but just so people know and aren't fearful towards, oh, that course isn't for me, because you never know it. It could be, and it
Yeah, I've
probably is.
certainly applied the methods that are in there for professional, Olympic, college, high school athletes. But the most common participant and the live clients that I've taken those experiences from, essentially, it's like an all-star team of, over my career, these are the mindset methods and techniques that have worked for the most people consistently in really meaningful, profound ways for their life path, their happiness, and their success. But it would be clients who are overcoming loss and setbacks and got knocked down in some way, trying to get back up. It's for clients navigating change, a little bit uncertain or timid about what the direction they're going to go. And it's for successful people that have hit a bit of a ceiling. Either they feel stuck where they are, or they don't know how to break through to the next level, or they've got a little bit of burnout, they got a little bit tired carrying the ball down the field. So wherever you find yourself on the survive to thrive, it will serve you, and it'll move you ahead.
I love that. I love that.
This
And
one's
we
a
need
big one
more of
for my
that.
heart. I love
Great. That's
sharing this
great.
one.
It makes me so happy. And then if you could tell your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
My younger self, sustainability, train for the long game. Would be that from a health and a fitness side. Gosh, if things are ending with this, I want to be careful, because my younger self would be say, because I had so much belief in myself and I grew far far beyond my roots. But to answer your question sincerely, I would say, not everyone is like you,
True,
and
though.
that means protect the house,
And
watch
accept
your
that.
back.
Yes. And accept that. I get that a lot too, because there's a lot of resistance in what we do. And it could be a scary place, because we rub people, if they don't know themselves, we rub people the wrong way
Mm.
sometimes when we have this heart that truly loves and wants to give. So, having that intuition and within yourself to trust what you're doing. And yeah, I love that. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. Trust myself, believe in myself, certainly, and I think every step of the way, if we all look to when we were at like our youngest self that we can remember, and wherever we are today, we've all got through to here, right? So we should all feel great, because we've just shown we can do it. We can get through whatever
Right.
shit show or whatever great wins and celebratory and happy times. Like, we've gotten through to here, and just think of yourself at like 6 or 8 years old. If your 6 or 8 year old was looking at you, it was like, holy wow, you did all those things and you got
Right.
through that and accomplished that. and survive that, and you're doing, the kid in you would be amazed, would be blown away, right? And that's a great way for people to feel great about where they are, what they've gotten through, as well as what they've accomplished. And, for those of us that wish we were further ahead, or, want to get into something new, I like to remind people we're all right on time. You're right on time. Even if you feel behind, you're right on time, because this is your life path. This is your life story. This is the story that's being told through you. And so, here we are, and we're all here together, and we can decide what, how we want to move forward. And we still have that opportunity.
Wise words from Peter Twist. Thank you again for being here. It's been amazing. You're such a deep person, and I appreciate you showing our audience a little bit about yourself and just what you've uncovered and how you've helped other people and helped yourself. Because I feel like when people are in this world of feeling negatively or not having hope, these little stories really make a difference, and they allow people to keep going. So thank you so much. And
You're
thank you
very
for being here.
welcome. And for you, which you do so well, I'll encourage others. You share your light, and which so well, your spirit, your brightness, and you give that to others. You're very healing with folks. But for all of us, just share. Don't be afraid to be a little bit lit. Give yourself permission to feel a little bit lit, and to share a little bit of that, and see if you can get some momentum in that way. Thank you so much. I always appreciate connecting and chatting, and thank you to your audience too for tuning in.
Amazing. Thank you again to everyone for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you again to Peter Twist for being with us and just sharing such amazing stories. You can find Peter Twist at twistperformance.com. You can also look him up on Instagram or Facebook at Peter Twist. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this episode. Thank you again for being here. And if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out. We'll see you next time.